Russia lost 48 artillery systems and a total of 125 vehicles in a single day, Ukraine's military said on Thursday. Among the various types of vehicles lost, according to Kyiv, were 22 tanks, 40 APVs, and 63 fuel tanks and other vehicles. The figures were provided by the General Staff of Ukraine's Armed Forces, which posts estimates of Russia's troop and equipment losses daily. Its latest update said Russia lost 2,300 soldiers over the past 24 hours, bringing the total to 515,000. Moscow has lost a total of 13,133 artillery systems, 15,076 armored combat vehicles, 7,828 tanks, 18,360 vehicles and fuel tanks, 357 military jets and 326 helicopters in the ongoing war, Kyiv's military said. The casualty numbers have been high on both sides these past few months, particularly after Russia kick-started an offensive in the Kharkiv region on May 10th, seizing a number of villages on Ukraine's northeastern frontier and forcing thousands of civilians to flee. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Russian losses during its Kharkiv offensive were 8 times higher than Ukraine's. Newsweek could not independently verify the claim. Ukraine's defense ministry said in a statement on June 1st that Russia lost 38,904 troops in the month of May, marking the highest monthly number since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. The occupiers in Ukraine have 2 options: return to their land or be buried in ours, the defense ministry said in a post on its social media channels. Estimates of casualty numbers vary, with Ukraine's figures usually exceeding those of its Western allies. Moscow rarely shares information on the number of casualties it has sustained in the war. In September 2022, former Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said 5,937 troops had been killed since the war began. However, in a rare statement on losses in Ukraine war, Russian President Vladimir Putin said at a press conference on Wednesday that the ratio of irretrievable losses between Russia and Ukraine was 1 to 5 in favor of Moscow. He didn't elaborate on the exact figures. Kyiv, like Moscow, does not provide updated information on its war casualties. A U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency assessment leaked in April 2023 said that Ukraine had suffered 124,500 to 131,000 casualties, including 15,500 to 17,500 dead. Russia's defense ministry said in its latest update on Wednesday that its military has so far destroyed 610 Ukrainian aircraft, 274 helicopters, 25,177 unmanned aerial vehicles, 527 anti-aircraft missile systems, 16,264 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,130 combat vehicles of multiple launch rocket systems, 10,124 pieces of field artillery and mortars, as well as 22,286 units of special military vehicles. A crack Russian unit of fighters was almost totally destroyed during intense fighting near Kharkiv, rendering it inoperable, according to reports from the front line. The devastating massacre took place last weekend during fighting for Vovchansk, a city located 73 kilometers 45 miles northeast of Kharkiv. The city has become the focus of heavy fighting after Russian troops launched a surprise attack in the Kharkiv region in early May. As of last week, the Russians claimed to control around half of the city, but the situation on the ground remains very fluid. After making initial gains, the Russians have increasingly become bogged down amid fierce resistance from Ukrainian troops, who are starting to receive fresh supplies of critical weapons from the US. A pro-Russian military blogger claimed on his Telegram channel that the 1009th Regiment had been wiped out during fierce battles in Vovchansk. The unit consisted almost entirely of mobilized soldiers from the Pskov region in northwest Russia. The blogger wrote on his northern channel, 1009th Regiment, 25th Brigade, 6th Army, mostly mobilized from the Pskov region. They stood until the last dark days for our guys and their relatives in the Kharkiv direction. The blogger blamed commanders for the losses, saying they failed to take into account the changing realities of the battlefield. In a sign that the Russians are struggling to assert control over the city, he added, "It has become difficult in recent days. Don't read the victory reports. There is heavy fighting, and those advances of 300 meters in the morning may end in a retreat of 500 meters by evening. Two houses on the same street may end up under the control of either one, then others." Anton Andreev, a contract soldier from the 1009th Regiment, told the Russian media channel Astra that out of 100 soldiers in his unit, only 12 survived a loss rate of 88%. He described hellish scenes of troops being mowed down by machine gun fire and drones. "You walk through the street, everything seems to be fine, but then you get caught up in a massacre under machine guns, especially drones, they take out so many," he said. And the command on the radio shouts, "Forward, forward. You can't leave. When there are 5 to 10 people left from all groups, maybe they will allow them to retreat." Andreev blamed officials in Moscow for the massacre, vowing to take revenge on those responsible.
Огонь!